Thanks for joining me today. I am back with the second half of my interview with Brandon Hart. Now, Brandon and I sat down and recorded this interview a couple of months ago, actually, but we were waiting to release the interview until his new material came out. And the new single comes out May 19th, or came out May 19th. It's produced by Danny Craig. It features Tom Macdonald, and the video is directed and edited by Brandon. So make sure you check it out. It's on all the major platforms. So give that a go, and let's get going with the rest of our interview. So video is unquestionably another big part of music these days, and has been for some time.
For sure.
How do you approach your video production and release?
Just like anything, like we at the very beginning of the conversation, I said the only thing that made sense to me is music. Movies are like the only other thing that makes sense to me. So luckily, conceptualizing and I often have pretty good visual idea of where the song is going to go after I've written it and kind of brainstorming the ideas. And again, I had to work my way into that too. I think if you watched my first videos, you could feel how uncomfortable I am being filmed until you learn that, like, again, this is a parameter that lives inside of being a professional musician, and you need to learn how to push past your insecurity of being on a camera and just let what you're doing shine. How would you sing to that song if you're alone in your room? Make it like that on camera. And so it just comes back to the authentic part of it all. I understand that music videos are such an important way for multiple reasons. Like, one, if it's fun and clever, people will probably watch more of it. But it needs to be authentic to yourself again, because if it feels contrived, it's just like anything else. And for me, my music videos are a pretty big representation of who I am as a human being. They carry the same theme of every other aspect of my life. Some are fun, some are serious. And I try to remember that the person watching it isn't me. And so when you're creating, create for yourself, but create for the people that are going to watch it too, because this is your chance to kind of entertain a little bit and give them some fun. And what I mean by that is, if there's something that might make you feel uncomfortable personally to try it, you should try it, because that might turn out into something. I made a song called Dad Bod, and that video, I don't know if you've ever seen it, is probably one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever done in my life. But I knew by shooting that video, it would make someone else feel comfortable in their skin. And that's what I wanted. I wanted people to see a video like that and go like, you know what? I am going to wear that to the beach this year, and I don't give a shit what someone looks at. And I'm going to sing this song loud and tell them I'm happy. I look great the way I am. And I want people to feel confident and sexy how they are, and not hide anything. So the whole point of that song and video alone was I was trying to find an easy, digestible way of allowing people to feel better in their skin, with a little bit of humor and comedy to it, and letting myself be the joke of it at the time. And
that's fantastic.
That was the whole point. Dad Bod had no other purpose other than to make people feel comfortable in their skin to a fun song. And people love that song. They get a good anthem out of it. There's a lot of people that, might have a few extra pounds that love that song. And I was very uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know many people that are comfortable in Versace underwear, like Speedo shooting that. That was not, you gotta have a lot of, let's go for it, some gusto.
Absolutely. I have not seen the video, but you know what I'm doing as soon as we're done this interview, right?
You should. If you've never watched Dad Bod, it's a pretty big, crazy video for sure. And shout out to Devin Locke, who shot and directed that video, with Christian Eichmann, who shoots all my stuff there, and all the wonderful people. My friend Mark let us use his yacht. It's all shot on a yacht. It's definitely worth the watch. It's a pretty silly video. We had lots of people in the video, and it was a lot of fun. And yeah, so music videos can be serious and they can be fun at the same time.
Yeah.
So just try to find what works for you in your music.
How have you approached songwriting? Do you write as a solo writer with co-writers? And has it been something that you've just developed naturally, or have you done some structured learning in that area? And how do you keep it current?
I have done a mixture of everything probably, but
Mm-hmm.
only on Worried Sick did I write with like a co-writer on 2 songs. My great friend Patrick Gavigan from Best Night Ever Band. Pat and I wrote 2 songs together on that record. We wrote Kings of the Summer and Why Did My Brain Forsake Me? Kings of the Summer and oh my gosh, Time Don't Wait. Wow. Can't even remember the title to my own song. We wrote Time Don't Wait and Kings of the Summer together. And I had never really written with someone before. And Pat is an incredible all-around musician. And it was just fun to vibe out. Him and I, for years, would just send things back and forth. Like, hey, what do you think of this? Do you like that word? Would you change that one? And I'm a big fan of like cool wins, right? I don't have the best idea in the room. The coolest idea in the room usually wins. But I've written by myself my entire life. So every album I write alone. Tom wrote on 2 of my first records. He wrote some of the verses on my very first record on I'm Brandon Hart. He wrote the verses for Dreams. And so I've been lucky to have a lot of inner collaboration with my best friends, just throwing words back and forth, stuff like that. But as far as songwriting, how I approach it is just like I approach everything else, completely unorthodox and untrained. However I do what works for me. So usually I don't think I've ever sat there and been like, okay, today I'm writing a song about this, which a lot of people do. Like people who are career songwriters are like, today I'm writing about this and tomorrow I'm writing about that and we're going to write 4 songs about this and they're all in C major and whatever. I'm not that dude. Every song I've ever written is off of vibe. And I usually, either get an idea or I hum something or a melody comes to me and then I just kind of let it take me. And usually, it'll strike a chord on some type of emotion. And I've always said I write from the inside out, not the outside in. I think everybody has a different way of doing it. For me, it's always just I have a melody or a harmony or something, and then the words I just kind of like try to get out of my own way.
Yeah.
To allow whatever's trying to come through me, come through me.
Yeah.
That's it. I think it's it's so interesting. I have watched a lot of different things of like other people's approach to songwriting and how they write ABC parts and like the pop formula. And I'm fascinated by people that are able to structure it like that. But mine is trying to catch lightning in a bottle in 4 different places and putting it together. Maybe it'll hit here. But it's repetition. My 2 favorite quotes about writing, I cannot remember the author, but someone said, do you only write when you're inspired? And he said, yes, I only write when I'm inspired. Luckily, inspiration happens every morning at 9 a.m. As a practice, you got to
I've heard that quote, actually. And I don't know if it's like Stephen King or something. It's, but yeah, it's somebody big. I've heard that.
And my other favorite one is, if you want to get hit by a train, you need to stand on the train tracks.
Yep.
So again, practice, repetition, show up, stay in the room, set yourself a timer, try and write for 45 minutes, go do something else, come back, hit the timer again, go do something else, stay in the room, because sometimes the source or wherever that this creative art lives from needs a bit of coaxing, and you need to give it its time to come out and feel safe to come out and go whatever direction it does. So I just, again, try to be the jar and let the lightning hit it.
I think too, with writing, sometimes you have to write the bad shit in order to clear the pipes for the good shit to come through.
I don't mean this in like a bragging way at all. I've never been able to write shit songs like that, where like I could just write for like I've never been able to sit down and write 10 songs and be like, it just like I'll get like a line in and I'm like, nope. And I just move on. And usually when I'm writing a song, it feels like a song I've heard already from, you know what I mean? Like when a song feels like a song,
absolutely do.
then I'm like, oh, I've got a song. It's a song.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's a really tough thing because I get asked that question all the time. People are like, how do you write? And I'm like, usually that song was written in 10 minutes because I can't keep my hand fast enough on the page to write it. But it might take me 6 months to get that song because or sometimes, I'll write 10 songs in a week and sometimes I won't write 10 songs in a year.
Yeah.
And I'm trying, and I'm always trying to learn a better way to do things for myself. And I think the next project, I think I'm just going to try and live in it for like 2 months and not write up to it. I don't want to be trying to write throughout the year and having those, oh shit, I couldn't write this day and I can write that day, because that really messes with your brain. I think, again, if I get out of my own way and give myself a week of transitioning out of whatever part of my life I'm in and going like, hey, we're going to be in our studio and we're going to work here for the next little bit. So let's have our coffee in here. We don't need to do anything today. We don't need to play any guitars. We don't need to do anything other than start kicking ourselves back over into this mode and gently allowing it to show up and then being like, boom, these 2 months are when I'm going to write only in.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to try and do the next project like that.
That's an interesting, just
then you get to live in it.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
It's really hard when you're in and out, when your life's super busy and you're making a record in pieces. When you're in it and you're in flow is like the most beautiful time of it all. And then you leave it, and to come back to it for years, I would half write a song and I was unable to write the back half of it if I left. Only over the last 3 years have I been able to like start a song 3 months ago and finish it 3 months later. And they still live like they're from the same breath.
Yeah.
Which took a lot of time.
Well, and I mean, I've had the experience of writing a song in half an hour, and it was like, it just arrived fully formed. And I've had the experience of writing a song that I started and then 15 years later, I finished it because I couldn't find it for the interim 15 years.
What a trip, hey?
But it got there eventually. I find, and I've talked to some other writers in the course of this show that have echoed this sentiment, that often writing feels like being a conduit. Rather than it coming from you, it's coming through you.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
That's your experience too?
100%. Absolutely. Like I said, there's times where I can't move my hand as fast as it's coming through me. And there's times where you're like, hello? Anything? All right, I'll try tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think, who knows? Who knows how it really works? All I know is that's what I mean. You want to. I try and stand there and hold the jar out for the glass or for the lightning to hit it. And all I know is that it is a great feeling when the conduit is receiving something, and it's a really tough feeling when it isn't.
Yep.
And it's important, I think, for myself. I've learned. If I've tried to give myself the gift of anything, it's grace in those moments, because just because you couldn't write a song for 2 months doesn't mean you're a bad writer. It means a million things. I was listening to a master class with Aaron Sorkin the other day, he wrote like West Wing, American President. He's an incredible screenwriter, and that kind of stuff fascinates me. And it's been something I've been working on, in the background for a long time. I do want to write a couple movies, and I have started a couple. And he said usually from start to finish when he writes something is 18 months. And he usually writes the screenplay in 3 of those months and the other 15 months are spent being depressed, thinking he can't write. And I was like, holy shit, is that relatable? Like if the guy who's writing full on, like, you know, he wrote A Few Good Men, think of that speech with Jack Nicholson. That guy wrote that. Think of how many times people say, you can't handle the truth. That guy wrote it. And he's talking about 15 months of being depressed, thinking he's not a writer, and 3 months of actually putting it out. So I think if we all popped our head up and had a look around and realized that grace is often what we need, rather than, you know, berating ourselves to thinking like it's over for you, you cannot write a song anymore. And if you just said, hey buddy, it's okay.
Yeah.
Roll up your paintbrushes, put your easel down for the day, and we'll try again tomorrow. Go take a walk. You're still awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I think every artist probably has the same feeling when you make an album. It takes so much out of you. You make the album and you're like, great, now I'm never going to be able to make something better than this. And then somehow you scrape together and you Frankenstein something new, and you're like, I've done it. How will I ever do it again?
Right? It's a cycle.
It's this constant up the mountain to get to the top, to rip down the other side of it and hit that plateau.
Yeah.
That, where do I exist in this flat land? And, you know, I've learned now that ebb and flow is, you know, the wave coming in and coming out, right? That's not a bad thing. Waves have to do that. That's how tides work. So just sometimes you're swimming, sometimes you're floating, right?
I recently heard a framework terminology for that period of time that I have embraced quite fully for myself, that has felt very different. And that is that, just for creativity in general, whatever form that takes for you, that we have to have fallow periods, or the creative void. Because if you think in farming terms, when you plant a fallow field, that's nurturing the soil so that the next time you grow an actual crop there, all the ground is fertile to do so. But you have to actually give the soil a rest. You have to replenish what's in there. It's the same for us as people. And I think it's the same for us in a creative process, that we have to have those creative voids in order to let new stuff bubble up, where we're just tending to caring for ourselves and our creative process, which doesn't necessarily mean being active in it.
No, 100%. And I think if we embraced those moments rather than detested them, thinking that we were inefficiently working, you'd be in a better place. My friend Sammy says, sometimes you're the bird, sometimes you're the statue. And I love that analogy, because it's true. Sometimes you're flying in circles and sometimes you're just holding ground, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful analogy to it. And good things come from that valley, right? You're right.
Yeah.
Because it's true. The patience you have to be, you know, to be a farmer, right? You got to plant something and know that eventually it'll be something. And I think that's a beautiful perspective on it all.
So let's talk about the relationships in your career. And I mean, I know we've touched on this actually quite a lot through this conversation. So I'm not necessarily talking about specific people, but the relationships. What have been the most important relationships in your career? Personal, professional, that, you know, whatever, that has allowed you to progress to where you are?
Multiple relationships for sure, but I think any person personally, any person that helps you to feel your best and want to be your best is a person to keep around in your life. And for me, I think it's easier to explain it as the things I've cut from my life and the things that I've kept in my life. And that goes from relationships with unhealthy, you know, things as well as people. And the most important relationships to me are the ones that I don't have to worry about where I stand in them. I don't have to worry about how I'm viewed in them, who I am in the where I am placed in the priority chart to them. Anything that was drawing on me negatively, be it substance or person, I've removed from my life. And that sounds harsh, but cutting dead weight is an important thing. And having people around you that encourage you. I know a lot of people that have relationships with friends that are musicians that are doing equally the same as them. And it doesn't challenge them to do something different. If you know the old saying, right? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Yep. I think that rings true to music and everything you do in your life. If the people around you are plateaued, you got to find people that are out there trying to climb mountains, man, because you are destined to stay in the same spot you are now if you don't. So I'm lucky, and I only really have a handful of relationships in my life that I water and they water back. That's it. You know, it's so they're important to me for those reasons, really. Without going into specifics of certain people, I just I only cultivate what is good for me in that aspect.
That's like the most I think that is one of the most elevated aspects of self-care.
Yes,
frankly.
it is. And it's such a hard thing because I also think like at different points of our life, we tolerate different things. And I think as you get older and you stop doing some things, the things that you once tolerated, you're like, whoa, wait, what? No, I can't do that. And I cannot, I can't get on the phone with someone and every time I leave the conversation be so drained of my energy that it takes me 2 days to refill my cup. And I apologize if that hurts someone's feelings and they need more from me than I can give to them. However, you need to understand that you can't pour from an empty cup. All those cliche analogies exist because any old saying and analogy exists because it's true.
Yeah.
It's because many, many, many people have dealt with it. And I think the faster you can realize that people pleasing gets you nowhere. And
well, it gets you somewhere. It's just not where you want to go.
Fair enough.
It's incredibly depleting.
It is. And it took me a long time to just like, okay, it's fine. I think people have a fear of being alone a lot, and they mistake loneliness for being alone. So they'll constantly go back to things that didn't serve them in the time, and they've made it out of them, and now they're back to it, not realizing that like in order for you to grow in life, it requires isolation and it requires the right people coming back to the soil stuff, right? It's what you put in your soil is how you're going to grow.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Just yes. All the yeses. All right. Let's talk about the realities of life on tour, the impact that has on your body and voice. So especially as an independent artist, you don't have big fancy tour buses and posh hotel rooms. They're probably meet and greets to navigate. And you're out there at your merch table on top of your actual performances. So it's not always as like pretty and fancy as it might seem from an outsider perspective. That comes with some harsh realities for singers around vocal fatigue and lifestyle. And how do you balance the needs of both ends of the spectrum? You need your voice to sing the show, but you also need to be at the merch table to, hang with your fans and do the meet and greets and the whatever. How does that all balance out for you?
I don't think it does, to be clear. But again, it's about making the proper choice. And so I'm very conscious of alcohol. I don't drink alcohol anymore, but when I did tour and I was still drinking, I don't drink before shows. I usually, if I'm going to have a beer, it would be after a show and then an abundance of water after that beer. Trying to hydrate as much as possible pre and after a show. I pick my moments to talk to people. I don't do it when the music's pounding in there and there's somebody else playing. I think that's really important. Usually we save the meet and greets for the end of the night when the show's done completely.
Mhm.
So you're just talking to somebody like we're talking right now. I don't have to raise my voice. I drink a lot of tea. I think this is one thing that people often forget. And I always remind people on the road, every single gas station you stop at to pee or to get gas has hot water and it's free. So buy tea bags, keep a travel mug in there and get tea every time you stop. If you really, it's so good for your voice because it's hydrating and it also feels nice. You can get nice ginger ones and things that are smooth for your throat. So I'm a big tea drinker. And you're not going to get the amount of sleep you want, nor need, or require in any aspect of life. So just remember that nothing good happens after 2 a.m. Go to sleep and try to rest up, because tomorrow the only person you're going to let down is the people that you're their Friday night plan. So respect that. Don't show up hungover and shitty and tired and sick and you don't want to be there. Respect that. Respect the people.
Love that perspective, because we often, I think, look at it from how does it affect me as the performer. And there again, it just speaks to the fact that you approach things out of service to the relationship. So
Absolutely.
If you are prioritizing your activities today in order to serve your audience tomorrow,
for sure,
that puts a completely different perspective on it.
I think people, they sit there and they look at their merch item and they go, what's the maximum amount I can sell this for? And how much money can I make off of it? And I look at the entire night like this. Thursday may be your one stop in Salt Lake City. And you're thinking about, that's the date that I play Salt Lake City. And you're not thinking about anything else. What everybody else in Salt Lake City is doing is this Thursday, 2 months from now, is the night that I'm getting a babysitter. If you have kids, it's our one night that my mom's going to come over and watch them. It's what I've been saving, the extra money that I get from my paycheck. That isn't a lot. And how expensive is that ticket? And can I afford to take me and my wife? And do we have enough money for some drinks? You don't take into the perspective of how much a fan is really shouldering to come see you.
Yeah.
So then they make it in there and they want to get a shirt, and you've got your shirt priced at $45 or something, and they can't leave with anything because it means we don't take a cab home or something else. I think about every single detail in the merch process, but as well as that online performance. I'm somebody's plan for that month, that week. I might be the thing they get to do.
Yeah.
Often your tickets for someone's birthday or Christmas, or you are it for them. And you have the audacity to show up shitty, hungover, not wanting to be there, half-assing it. That is such a cop-out to me.
Yep.
I don't believe in it. I don't subscribe to it. And if you leave with anything less than me, no one's going to care more about it than I am. I'm going to beat myself up for the next 6 dates trying to outdo how I played there. So I've always respected it by not, I'm not going to say I never played a show drunk in my life. I've probably at moments drank too much whiskey while playing, but I don't think I've ever given someone a fall down shit performance like ones I've been privy to in my life from other artists. And I know we all deal with pressure differently. I think not everybody understands. Most people are trying to combat nerves. But I respect how much of a job and how much of a responsibility it is, and what a privilege it is to be able to even get to do that in the first place. So I think it should be respected as so. So if you work a job now in your life and you're listening to this and you wouldn't show up at 6 a.m. smelling like whiskey to start your duties for that job, for your job that you may hate, and a bullshit boss that you don't like, but you don't do because you don't want to get fired and you need the money, treat performing the exact same way. It's not a place for you to, I might catch flack over this. Some people might think, hey man, let me do it how I do it. I just think treat people with the respect that they deserve and show up to make their night special for them, because that's what the fuck we're here for.
Amen. And it's a privilege to do so.
Every time, every single time. I cannot tell you, and I bet you someone couldn't tell you a stage where I haven't stopped at the end to say, every single show I end with, you might feel alone right now in your life, but I'm not here just saying this. If you feel alone and you feel like you have no one to talk to, you have me now. I'm here. Reach out to me. I try to get back to everybody. You're not alone. Look at the people around you. There's all these people here that feel the same way as you. I try to include everybody, and I thank them for giving me the honor and the privilege of being there in the first place and getting to share my music with them. And there's nothing greater than that, you know? So give the people the respect they deserve, and you'll get to do it year after year after year, I bet.
Yeah. So let's talk for a brief minute before we wind up. You have a new project.
I do. I have a new record coming out with a good friend of both of ours, Danny Craig. He produced the whole record.
Danny's going to be on this show as well.
Is he? Danny's the best. Danny's the best just as a human being, but he is such a powerhouse, man, as a producer. Danny and I have been friends for over a decade now and never made music together. We have talked about making albums umpteenth times. Danny's such a great dude. He's beautiful energy, top to bottom. He's genuine. He has zero ego, and he's incredible. He's incredibly talented. And I had a lot of fear around it. You know, I did the last 3 records with, my great friend, Evan Morgan, and Ev's great. And we'd been working together for 6 years, coming into 7. And Evan's a multi-instrumentalist. He played all the parts on the record. He's an incredible producer, engineer, mixing master. Ev's incredible all around. And I think sometimes you get to this point in music where you're like, you start blurring the line. You're like, I'm afraid, like, if I leave this, what's it going to sound like? What it would be like? And I think that anticipation of being afraid to change things or shake it up because things have worked a certain way up until that time is like, ooh, this is scary. This is new. Is it going to be okay? And I knew that I wanted full band sound. Obviously, on the last few records, there is live drummer. Ev plays all the guitar. He plays the bass on it. There is full band sound, but I wanted like full rock band sound. I wanted that big hit you in the chest drums. And I have always loved Danny's mixes. I've always loved the records Danny produces because they encapsulate that exact sound. Because of how he is and the music he's made in his life. That's just like really where Danny lives. He's perfectly fit in that area. Not to say he can't do a wealth of other things. He just is incredible in that aspect. And I wasn't sure, and I didn't know how it was going to turn out. And we talked at the top of this year and said, what do you think, man? Are you interested? And it just kind of like worked out time-wise that he had time to take the project on, and it was kind of like stars aligned in that aspect. And I threw a couple of songs I was working at to him, and he was like, listen, man, like, why don't I flesh them out? No one's married to anything, and if we love it, let's do it. If we don't, like, it's cool, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, that's great. Like, I started to feel more comfortable. And my wife said to me, she's like, you're gonna know in 2 seconds or not if it's what you want to do when you hear it. And I sent him the first single, or first song, I should say. Now that is the first single, but I sent him the first one, and he was like, let me work on it, and I'll send it back to you. And within like 24 hours, he sent me back the first demo. I got 35 seconds into it and threw my hat on the ground. Was like, holy shit! It was exactly what I wanted the song to sound like. It exceeded my expectations, and my daughter is a good vibe check. She's always, if she's really into the song, even when she was like little, she'd rock extra harder to it. And as soon as this came on, she was like instantly dancing. And I was like, well, we've got something here.
Love that.
So Danny and I went in and I got to track it. We tracked it all together. It has some incredible musicians playing on it as well. And super excited to show it to people. It's been a long process this year of putting it together. But I really wanted to take my time putting this record out because it was so important to me. And I do feel like it's the greatest music I've made to date. For the people who I've let listen to it so far, I feel the same way. And it doesn't take away from anything I've made in the past. It's just something new. And I think that's what I wanted to try something different to challenge myself. Him and I had always wanted to work together, and I always wondered what my song would sound like produced by Danny. And now I wonder no more. It was such an incredible experience. I hope to do multiple albums with Danny in the future. And I'm really excited to share it with people. So I don't have a date for it to come out yet, so I won't speak to that. Maybe when this does come out, we'll be close to it anyways. So
yeah, no, we're recording in 2022, but we're going to hold on to this until it's your release date. Do you know when it actually is going to drop? Do you have a
No, I have rough. There's a couple more pieces of the puzzle that are unfolding around me, just of where it's going to be released, how it's going to be released, who it's going to be released with. It's still independent, but we're working on some cool independent things with it. And it should be top of the new year, like probably I'm aiming for March.
Yep. Awesome.
I'm aiming for March, but probably start rolling out the first video in February.
Cool.
Yeah.
So where can people find you? Web, social media, show listings, all the things.
I've made it so easy that it's at I'm Brandon Hart everywhere, and my website is IamBrandonHart.com.
That is a beautiful thing.
It's
Simplicity is king.
Yeah, it is, and it's also it's you just need to remember one thing for all the things.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been fantastic. I think it's been a really illuminating conversation around making a successful, sustainable career as an independent artist.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be on here. It's great. I always love chatting with you. So it was a lot of fun, and